The number 3 is very important when it comes to storytelling, as many novels and films follow a 3-act structure, and movie or book trilogies are very common, and almost expected when a story with interesting lore becomes successful. And one of the trilogies held in the highest regard is the Dark Knight trilogy, as these 3 films have become the standard that all Batman films will forever be held to. Each film in the trilogy has unique strengths, yet feel extremely connected, which is kind of the dream scenario for a trilogy. In a perfect case, you'll create an established world that is consistent throughout, but evolves and grows each step of the way. And this is without a doubt done by Christopher Nolan here, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at One of the reasons Batman has been and remains such a popular character is due to the incredible amount of iconic villains he has to combat against. His colorful and larger-than-life antagonists contrast his dark and brooding style very well, while his physically imposing and highly intelligent villains also force him to adapt and use different skill sets to face them. And perhaps the best aspect of the Dark Knight trilogy is its use of villains. The villains used in each film work perfectly to force Batman to evolve and grow each step of the way. In Batman Begins, we have Ra's al Ghul, who is integral in the formation of the Dark Knight, as he brings Bruce Wayne into the League of Shadows, teaches him their ways and how to conquer fear. But he also teaches Bruce a valuable lesson that not everyone can be saved. You see, due to the gratitude that Bruce felt towards Ra's al Ghul, he decides to spare his life when he burns the League of Shadows hideout and makes his escape. But this comes to bite him as Ra's burns down Bruce's mansion towards the end of the film and attempts to destroy Gotham. And the climax of this film shows us that Batman has evolved, as he won't outright kill Ra's with his own hands, but he's not going to save him either. And though Ra's and Batman did not see eye to eye on how they wanted to cleanse Gotham City, Bruce could at least understand Ra's, as they both did in a way want the same thing, they just had much different ways of going about it. But in The Dark Knight, Batman is for the first time confronted with a villain he does not understand. You see, he attempts to find what the Joker is really after and what his ultimate goal is in order to exploit it, but Batman ultimately finds a dead end. It doesn't seem like the Joker is after money or power, which leaves Batman confused. He certainly can't psychoanalyze the Joker like he did with Ra's, which forces Batman to adapt yet again, and to understand that there are some villains that he will not be able to comprehend, as some people just want to watch the world burn. Which is a lesson that the Caped Crusader certainly needed to learn in order to combat psychopaths, the likes of the Joker. And then The Dark Knight Rises finally presents Batman with a villain who's more physically imposing than himself. You see, with Ra's, he was definitely more skilled than Batman, at least at the start of the film, but he was more of a finesse-based fighter, and the Joker was certainly more of a brain-over-brawn type villain. But Bane is a straight-up tank who is physically stronger than Batman, which forces Batman to rebuild himself from the ground up. In eradicating all of his fear in the first film, Batman was in a way holding himself back, as a fear of death and the fear of the city's death ultimately fuels Batman to fight holding absolutely nothing back, as if his life is on the line, because it certainly is. So in a way, Bane forces a past his prime Batman to reignite the flames of fear inside himself that made him start his crime fighting in the first place. As a film nerd, I'm a sucker for symmetrical storytelling, where things that happen at the beginning are paid off at the end, and this trilogy does this beautifully. Even small things, such as Commissioner Gordon putting a blanket on a young Bruce Wayne after the death of his parents, get satisfying emotional payoffs in The Dark Knight Rises, as Batman uses this memory to finally tell Gordon who was under the mask all this time, and to thank him for letting him know that the world hadn't ended yet. And while The Dark Knight does rightfully get the most credit of all 3 films in this trilogy, I actually think that Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises do such a good job mirroring each other. Things begin and end with the League of Shadows attempting to destroy Gotham City, and in this first film we in many ways see the death of Bruce Wayne with the formation of Batman, as Rachel notes at the end of the film, telling Bruce that the man who left 7 years ago never came back, and that Bruce Wayne had become his mask, as Batman is now his true identity, which is symbolized beautifully through the burning of his house and everything that Bruce held dear turning to ash. But in The Dark Knight Rises, we see the death of Batman, as he takes his final act as the Caped Crusader when he flies the bomb out of Gotham City. And if you believe he survived the bomb via the autopilot, this actually becomes even more symmetrical, as the trilogy would then start with the death of Bruce and emergence of Batman, and then end with the death of Batman and re-emergence of Bruce, which is just such a beautiful parallel. But even if you don't think Bruce survived the bomb, we still have beautiful symmetrical storytelling, as his goal was to become a symbol that would inspire good in his city, and in death he becomes an everlasting symbol to inspire others, such as Detective Blake, to keep his work alive. Another reason why I think this trilogy is so beloved is because all of the small things that a casual moviegoer may not overtly think about are masterfully done and remain consistent throughout all three movies. The score by James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer is incredible and has similarities in all three, but is different enough to give each a unique flavor, to the point that I've heard different people claim each of the three soundtracks as their favorite, and I myself have a hard time choosing a favorite from the bunch. The directing and acting is also firing on all cylinders, as Christopher Nolan's hate towards using CGI and creating as many practical effects as possible has made these films age incredibly well. I mean, we're nearing the 15-year anniversary of Batman Begins, and it still looks better than the vast majority of blockbusters coming out today. And that's just on a visual level. Having the same consistent directing and acting in all three is also so important. If the Star Wars sequel trilogy has shown us anything, it is that having some sort of outline or one person at the helm is necessary when making a trilogy. And from the opening scene of Batman Begins to the closing shot of The Dark Knight Rises, this all feels like a Christopher Nolan guided project, because that is exactly what it is, and this is perhaps his biggest strength. All in all, the Dark Knight trilogy is the gold standard for live-action Batman, and is likely the greatest superhero trilogy we'll ever see. It has a clear vision throughout that rewards viewers for paying attention to even the smallest of details, and features some of the best villain performances of all time. And much like Batman, these three films will become an everlasting symbol of the excellently told stories that Christopher Nolan crafted time and time again. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this analysis of the Dark Knight trilogy, please feel free to drop a like or subscribe, and if you agree, disagree, or just have some strong Dark Knight thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments.